It's time to wander the world with Sharon. Enjoy this Big Blend radio podcast featuring award winning travel writer and photographer Sharon K. Kurtz. So we're really going to wander the world with Sharon today. We're going to go to Japan. She got to have fun during the cherry blossom time, and that is Sakura is a cherry blossom, right,
Yeah,
Sharon? Welcome
that
back.
means cherry blossoms. Hi, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. And Japan was unbelievable.
Yeah, so you were in Japan for how long? Because it was a while.
Almost a month.
Wow.
First, I did a cruise around the lower island of Japan, just because if I was going all that way, I wanted to get as much Japan in as I could. And then
Yeah.
I spent 3 days in Tokyo, and then I started a 14-day group tour with Inspiring Vacations.
And that's what we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah, I like just even their name, Inspiring Vacations.
Yes, it was wonderful. It's something new for North American travelers, not very well known. They are an Australian tour company,
Mm.
and they're making inroads into North American travelers. And it just so happened when I found out about them and I knew I was coming to Japan, I reached out, we chit-chatted, and then they invited me to come along and report about my experience being a North American traveler with an Australian tour company.
Right on. So it's inspiring vacations.us, everyone, or .com /US. So check that out. And Sharon's got a beautiful article also about her time chasing Sakura, a 14-day small group journey through Japan's cherry blossoms, and that is linked in the episode notes. So this is really cool. So this was 14 days, and it seems like you had quite a big itinerary, but it seemed balanced. This seems like it was a nice, calm way to really immerse yourself.
It really was. I've always wanted to go to Japan and I've always wanted to see the cherry blossoms, but I don't know about most travelers, but it's kind of daunting, the language difference. It's so far away. Navigating trains all on your own. It's just something I didn't think I could tackle on my own. And I was so thrilled to go on this small group tour. Plus,
That
you
makes
have
sense.
built-in buddies.
Yeah.
There were 19 of us. For a breakdown for people, there were 3 Americans and 3 Canadians, even though it's an Australian tour company, so word's getting around. And then the rest were Australian and New Zealand travelers. And most of us were women. There were 5 men, and the rest of us were women, some married couples, some solo women. It was just a really nice mix.
That's really cool. So, so you said like built-in buddies, right? So you go off
Yeah.
and so now I have to ask, this is very important. You you're on an Australian tour company, which I love Australians. They're my buddies. I grew up with Australians being in South Africa. There's just this built-in buddy system with that, right? But did you go chasing sake too? Did you have sake when you were over there?
Oh, you better believe it. Yes, we did.
Mm.
It was so good. I've only had sake a few times, and maybe the sake I had wasn't very good, but this was, and it's so flavorful and different depending on where you are in Japan. It has a different flavor.
Okay, so sake was a big deal. Okay, and the
Yes.
food, because I heard you did all kinds of food experiences as well. It just seems such an interesting thing. The food, street food, but then like really high-end food, and at the same time, it seems like you were in natural beauty, very rich history and spiritual
It
lifestyle as
was.
well,
Most
and
of us,
modern at the same
yeah,
time.
it's most of us came because we wanted to see the cherry blossoms. And when you do that, you have a trade-off. It is crowded because Japan is one of the most wanted visited countries now, and everyone wants to see the cherry blossoms. So for the most of the time, I'll have to say it was pretty easy to navigate. But when we were in, say, Kyoto, everybody wants to go to Kyoto. And there were a few times when we were going where some important shrines are in the cultural area, and you literally took mincing little steps. It was so crowded. But then, we wanted to see it, and it's worth seeing. The blossoms are incredible.
Oh, that's really cool. So you had a lot of people, but you just kind of, yes, you just take little steps at a time, little
Yeah,
steps at
in
a
a few
time.
places, like oh, it was there. It was mostly that way in Kyoto.
Mm.
But food, you have ramen noodles, you have sushi, you have tempura, you have street food. We went first to Osaka, and Osaka is like a big, bustling metropolis, so different than our two big cities were Tokyo and Osaka, and they have this area called Downtown, and it's kind of like a Japanese Disneyland on steroids. It's a street that is covered with lights and billboards and neon and street food stalls lining on both sides. And you can have they eat takoyaki balls, they're octopus balls that are so delicious, and ramen and any kind of food. So that's what you do. You that's another place where it was very, very crowded, but you just shuffle along and you take it all in, and it's quite an experience.
So are these balls of octopus or octopus balls?
That's a good
I had to go there.
clarification there. They had little minced up pieces of octopus, and they have like it's a street where they griddle with all these little holes. So it's like a
Oh,
batter. So they fill this griddle with this batter, of which there's octopus pieces in the batter, and they kind of keep turning it until you have these crispy little balls with bits of octopus in them.
okay. I had to go there. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah.
Well, because there's different delicacies around the world, and who knows,
True.
Yep. I mean, there's Rocky Mountain oysters, so you
Yeah.
never know. If you get an octopus, you never know what you're going to get. So I've just had to ask. But so you tried all these amazing foods. Did you enjoy them?
I did. I'm kind of like a lightweight Japanese eater. Like I'm not very good with raw foods, so I was a little worried, but I shouldn't have been because it is all so delicious. On the tour, there were a couple women that I hung out with that loved trying new foods. And I would just follow their lead. We'd go to fish markets, seafood markets, where you could just go to the stalls, and we actually had oysters on the half shell that were just opened and raw, and they were about as big as a dessert plate. They were so big.
Wow.
And then I had scallops on the half shell that were also raw. And it was just so buttery and flavorful. Um, but then I was hooked. I had whatever they could throw at me, I tried, and I loved it all.
So the sushi, I've heard it comes like in like vending machine kind of things. Is that true?
Well, there's vending machines everywhere. It is the craziest thing. I don't know why they love them so much, but I did not have sushi out of the vending machine. But we went to this little mountain village. It's called like in the Japanese Alps, Takayama. And we wandered down the street because on this tour, it comes with breakfast every day and then two main meals, one
Nice.
in the beginning and one at the end, but the rest you're on your own. But really, that affords you the opportunity to have whatever kind of food you want. And so we took off going down the street and we found this little sushi bar with a sushi master. And you walk in and you sit at the counter, and I ordered like a mixed plate, and it was the most beautiful plate of sushi of mixed things I'd never tried before. I
Oh,
love
so
that.
so people who love sushi, this you must go to Japan, obviously, right? It's
Yeah.
from there. That's
Yes.
cool. That's cool. So you got to do, these are some of the bucket list things when you go. So the
Yes.
cherry blossoms, that's a bucket list thing. The
Yes.
sushi is a bucket list thing. But then also Mount Fuji, that's another big bucket
Uh,
list, isn't it?
That is, Mount Fuji is like a shrine to them. It's like an iconic spot, but it is so big, the biggest mountain in Japan, that oftentimes it's covered with clouds. So the big point is, are you going to get to see it? Because that's not guaranteed. But we went to a lake and stopped, and you get a beautiful view if it comes out um, in front of this beautiful lake. And sure enough, it was all cloudy, but then the clouds parted and we had a beautiful view of Mount Fuji.
Ooh, this is cool. Hmm.
Yes.
So that's so and at that point, so you're getting a little, so you did get space where it wasn't too crowded, right?
Oh,
On
yeah.
this trip.
Like in the mountainous areas, it wasn't crowded. We went to gardens and shrines, not crowded. The crowds are in Tokyo and in Kyoto,
Mm. That makes sense.
basically.
That makes sense. So then, so you're all around. So I can imagine on this kind of tour that you're all sitting there comparing notes because you can do a little bit of different things, right? Or are you all doing the same thing?
Well, we had a guide. That's
Mm.
another great thing because the guide is Japanese.
Oh,
So
cool.
he could read all the signs, of course. He'd get our tickets for us. We rode the Shinkansen train, the bullet train from Osaka to Kyoto, 200 miles an hour. That was incredible.
Ooh,
So that was really fun. But having your own guide, he could help us with cultural differences and reading signs. And so we every day we would have group activities, but then we'd have free time to take off on your own.
that's cool. So I like to have free time. So,
Yes.
uh, yeah. So was it so? I mean, as travel writers, we all know when we do these kind of trips, it's like they want you to see everything and it's so fast, fast, fast.
Right.
We were talking about this being kind of a slow travel. Was it enough where you weren't so rushed off your feet that you could actually immerse yourself in the setting?
Yeah, it was really nicely paced. I think those of us that were chatting among ourselves wished we had one more day in Kyoto because that was where we had a whole day that was free. We could do whatever we wanted, but there's so many things to do in Kyoto that we just couldn't work everything in. So that would have been nice to have one extra day in Kyoto. But we
Uh,
did have a nice pace. And in the evenings, you're always on your own. You can go wherever
oh,
you
okay.
like, couple free days during the tour. So yeah, it was nicely balanced.
What was the lodging like?
We'd stay in um, mid-sized hotels. They weren't Western chains. You're not going to find a
Okay.
Marriott or a Hyatt or anything, but they're clean and the rooms are smaller because this is
Hmm.
Japan. We learned so
Right.
much about, the average Japanese person lived in tiny apartments, like, I don't know, 800 square feet maybe.
Mm,
And so space is at a premium. So even hotel rooms, they're very compact. You have everything you need, but they're going to be smaller. But we
okay.
stayed in really, and everything is so clean. And the Japanese people are so gracious and nice. They would do anything for you if you ask. Even if
Oh.
you didn't ask, they would see that maybe you were struggling with directions, then they'll come up and ask if they can help.
Oh, that's really nice. You know, from my experience with Japanese people, that obviously there's this calmness and sense of place and sense of order of things, and that they're very connected to nature. Did you feel that there because of the natural beauty, even though there's these, bustling, busy cities, that there's this natural beauty? I mean, even look at the picture behind you with the temple there, that this natural beauty is just it's pristine. So do you find that that is part of their way of life is including nature?
Yes, it certainly is. And they are just, as you say, they're calm and polite. And I get the feeling that, North American other travelers, we're not as polite as they are. We might push, we might shove, we might ask questions without saying good morning, but you will never know it from their face. They will not in any way uh, act as if you weren't as polite as you could be. They're
Mm.
nice back to you.
Okay, very nice, very nice. Okay, so let's continue on through this journey. So Osaka, you said was very electric, right?
Yes,
But you went to a castle, but you said there's neon lit alleyways. So this is like the bustling city, but then you went to a castle. This
yes.
is wild.
There is we went to castles and temples. Those are the two prime things that we saw along our journey. And Osaka Castle is famous. It's one of the first ones of a very feudal family back. You've seen maybe that Tom Cruise Shogun we saw on TV and The Last Samurai. Well, this was in feudal Japan, and so they have preserved these buildings. So we saw this beautiful big castle that is an UNESCO site.
Oh
Along
yeah.
with then on the morning of, that's where we saw the bustling Denburi street with the food.
Oh. So with this UNESCO site, isn't that where you saw little snow too? Or
Yes,
am
we
I?
went
Yeah.
to, they call it the Japanese Alps. So one thing I loved about this tour is we were there for 14 days, so we saw so much of Japan. I know about Kyoto, I know about Tokyo, but some of the little cities we went to, I'd never heard of them. And we went to this mountainous area of Japan, and there's an UNESCO village called uh, Shirigo, and it's in the mountainous areas where it's so snowy that they had tall pitched roofs, and they were so that the snow would fall off. And these in this village, how they raised their families, and they grew silkworms for
Wow.
weaving. That's what their profession was.
Oh, wow. Wow. So you're really getting this amazing overview of
Yes,
everything. This
we
is
really did.
wow. So you had to be happy because this was a big trip, for it to work out in what you wanted to experience. So the Nara Park, this is cool because I saw that I remember I was following you while you were there. I was following you on social media and you saw deer, baby deer.
Yeah, they're called Sika deer. And
Mm,
we went to Nara Park was the first capital of Japan. And it was the first empress came from Nara Park.
wow.
So for thousands of years, they've had a temple there. And these deer have been free roaming all this time. They're not afraid of people. They are just walking everywhere. And you can buy crackers for the deer, and that's what they like to eat. And they can smell it if you have crackers on you. And I had little deer following me everywhere, bumping up to my pocket, trying, and then they would bow. When they want a cracker, they bow their heads, and then you
Aw.
bow back.
Aw, that's cute. Aw. Well, that's amazing. So this capital city is now a park, right?
Yes.
That is incredible. And there was a temple there too that you got to see,
Yes,
right?
it was where the great Buddha temple is, and it's the largest wooden structure on earth. This temple that is original, and it's got a large
Mm,
seated Buddha in it.
wow, wow. So when you were in Kyoto, and this is where you saw the cherry blossoms, you went to what was the go I'm sure I can't pronounce any of this. So, to all of our Japanese listeners and friends, our apologies. We are not Japanese, but boy, will
That's
we try. You know,
yeah.
the Golden Pavilion.
Yes, that is the picture behind me.
Oh, it's
That
gorgeous.
is a Shinto shrine, and the top two floors are covered with gold leaf. And that goes from way, way back, like the 15th century. And it was surrounded in a beautiful lake. It was such a beautiful setting.
Mm, and that's in Kyoto. So you go from blossoms to that. Oh,
Yes, there were, and the cherry blossoms, it's nature. You never know exactly when they're going to bloom. You just know that they're going to bloom in late March and early April. So it had been a little cool before we arrived, which delayed the blooms. So
ooh,
early in our trip, we'd see the buds coming out, but not full bloom blossoms. And then by 14 days later in Tokyo, it was like cotton candy floating in the air. The
oh,
blooms were kind of like behind you.
oh
And there are
man.
200 types of cherry blossoms, cherry blossom trees. Some bloom earlier, some later, some are very, very pink, and some are whitish, but it is something to see.
Wow. I didn't know that there were 200 types.
Yes,
So have you been to the cherry blossom bloom in Washington, D.C.?
I have not.
But you went to the creme de la creme, but they're both
Uh,
supposed to be
yeah.
really, really
Now I'll have to
amazing.
go see them in Washington, D.C. But yeah,
Yeah,
I had
exactly.
to go to the main source.
Wow. So, you also saw a bunch of lanterns. Is it Gion?
Yeah,
Gion?
Gion is the
Gion.
original geisha area of Kyoto. You know, in their past, they had this culture where these women they were like hostesses. They would
Hmm.
dress in these beautiful kimonos. I'm saying that wrong.
Kimonos.
Kimonos,
Yeah.
and and then they would entertain and they would dance and all of the social graces. And so they stopped that oh several hundred years ago, but there are still a geisha culture. And this area of town is called Gion, and you that's where they have the beautiful lanterns, the beautiful streets, and there are still geishas, but they're not walking around on the street for everyone to see. They kind of like now it's kind of like a a job, and they go from um, geisha place to place where they sit with visitors and
Mm,
greet them and serve tea and that sort of thing.
mm. Wow. You took a beautiful photo of a beautiful bride.
Yes.
Where that was, where
That
was
was
that?
in Kyoto. So that's
Okay.
where I said it is such a beautiful, it's the cultural center of Japan. And there's a road with shrines on it. So that's where you had to take little tiny steps, mincing. And I went to a tea ceremony there. Three of us went to a formal Japanese tea house and got served tea and learned all about the uh, special only the highest classes had tea in these tea houses back in the
Mm.
day. So when we got out, the crowds had cleared and we were going down the hill, and there was a beautiful bride and groom getting their photos taken. And, you know, I happened to swing behind them and I got the most beautiful shot of the bride with her parasol
Oh,
and the shrine in the back
it was
and
beautiful.
cherry blossoms.
Wow. So the tea was reserved for the upper class at one point.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
And it's you have a tea, we had a tea master service the tea. It's matcha tea, and you have to, in the end, they froth it for you and they
Mm.
serve it in big bowls.
Mm.
So it was really something.
Really cool, man. You really got some cultural experiences there. You know, you got the food and everything, but how amazing. Now, you talked about the garden in Kanazawa. Kanazawa?
Yes,
You went to this
Kanazawa
garden?
is kind of like in the mountainous area of Japan, and this garden was 17th century with a castle nearby. So the garden was original from the 17th century, and it was so beautiful. Moss-covered rocks, uh, Japanese statuaries, cherry
Ooh,
blossoms.
ooh, nice. I love going to gardens. You know that. We just, you know, that's amazing. But then also getting to Fuji. Um, yeah, did I say Fuji? Mount Fuji? Mount Fuji. I don't know. We're gonna get it straight at some point here. Mount
Yes.
Fuji. So getting to see that is amazing. And then we were talking about the seafood. I'm just going through. You went to a market, the Tsukuji market.
Sakuji Market, yes. That was my favorite thing is they have these wonderful seafood markets because Japan is quite small. The sea is on all sides, and they get this fresh seafood. And so you can walk in these markets and see huge tuna where they're cutting pieces off and the shellfish, and you can get fresh seafood right from the stalls. So
Mm,
did that.
mm. And then, okay, so right there, you said there was also this crossing, Shibuya crossing,
Yes.
and
Everybody
that's
wants that's in Tokyo.
okay in
So
Tokyo.
Tokyo is the largest, one of the largest cities in the world. 37 million people live in Tokyo and the surrounding areas. That is more people that live in the entire state of California. They live
Wow.
in one city. So Tokyo has so many different districts, and one of them is Shibuya. That is where they have this crossing with like 9 lanes crossing at once and big skyscrapers on all sides, and 100,000 people will cross that crossing in a day or in
Wow.
an hour. It's just so we did that. That is amazingly fun. And then you've heard of the dog statue called Hachiko. There's this this favorite dog in Japan lore, and it was back in the 40s, and his master lived right there by Shibui, the train station, and his master died. And this dog was so heartsick that he never left the train station. He would stay there waiting for his master for
Oh,
until he passed away. So there's a wonderful dog statue of the dog right there at
oh,
Shibuya Crossing.
oh. What a
Yes,
story. No. They are your best friend, you know.
yes,
You know. You know
I do.
that. So wow, this was a lot. So you were talking in the bottom of your article, you really talk about some tips and you talked about, okay, so book early. You were talking 6 months in advance if you want to do cherry blossom time.
Yes.
Woo!
As I said, how crowded it was. Yes, if you want a tour, you need to book a long ways out because there's only 19 on our spot. And
Mm,
we were there for the 14 days that the cherry blossoms are blooming. So plan early. And another good thing is to buy a, I bought what's called a Suica card.
mm,
You buy it before you go to the Visit Japan site and you learn about this card. You load it up with Japanese yen and you put it in your Apple Wallet and you can use that to buy train tickets. You literally don't even have to open it. You just put your
yeah.
wallet, your phone on the thing and you can buy snacks, you can buy tickets. So that's a good thing to buy. And then you go through data like crazy because you need to have Google Maps, or I did,
Mm,
because, and then Google Translate to read the menus. Everything is in Japanese. And I would have starved to death because you don't simply cannot read a menu. They have pictures, but so
yeah.
you need data. So I used an eSIM card that I got in advance and it loaded it onto my iPhone. So I had lots of data. You need to bring a charger because you go through data and you don't want to be out all day long with your phone dying. And another interesting thing is there are no trash bins in Japan. You take a little bag with you in your bag, and if you drink a coffee, if you have snacks, you
Mm.
put the litter back in the bag in your handbag or your backpack, and you take it back to your hotel because there are no trash bins on the street.
Ooh, wow. I know that's kind of an interesting thing. I was talking about this on a podcast about a year or two ago, and it was about in Washington State, the state parks do not have trash cans. And it's like a good thing and a bad thing. You know, so it's this is a conversation happening in this country because people we need to learn to take it back home with us.
Right,
But some people haven't quite learned that, and I think different countries and cultures have. But we need to learn because the parks can't always handle it, you
right.
know? And I've seen people take their trash and put it, I've seen in your beautiful state of Texas, right? You have a lot of
Yes,
picnic sites because there's
yes,
such a long drive to anything, right?
right.
And little rest area things, little picnic sites. I've seen local people go and take their bags of trash from their house and put
Um,
it in those I'm not knocking Texas,
um,
I don't want to get in
um,
trouble, but you know what I mean? So we have to figure this out
yeah.
somehow,
Well, they
because
have their
yeah.
it is what you do and people do it. And um, as I said, how polite the Japanese are, and they're also rule followers. You never jaywalk. You will stand if you come up to a stop traffic light. It doesn't matter if no one's coming. You do not cross against the light. And you
Oh,
walk on the left. You always walk on the left and allow
huh.
passersby. And on trains, you do not speak loudly on trains. They're silent. And it's because uh, for instance, Tokyo, it is so big and full of people that it's just polite to keep to yourself. Don't talk loud on the phone and don't talk loud to one another on a train.
But you know what? In case there's an emergency too, how do you get over that noise of people?
Yes,
You know, even no matter how you microphone something or amp it up, you know. So it's like being in a library.
yes.
That's
So
nice
what?
though.
So Tokyo, it's the biggest city, but we saw lots and lots of areas where it was very beautiful. The Imperial Gardens. It's part of the Imperial Palace and it's free, and anyone can walk through it, and it's just beautiful. And then we went to the Tokyo Tower. It looks like the Eiffel Tower, and it's orange, bright orange red. So you from there you can see a panoramic view of all
Mm.
of Tokyo. That's
Wow.
incredible.
Now, when you went there, did you pack extra light knowing that you're going to be, I mean, you're traveling for so long in
Yes.
Japan as a country, but did you pack light knowing that your rooms are going to be small and you're going to be doing a lot of moving about the country?
Yeah. Well, I did because that's how I pack anyway. But
Mm,
specifically, you need to have a roller bag because you walk all the time. And in my little tiny bag, I had 3 pair of shoes because you need to change your shoes because you walk so much, you need to be comfortable. And so the
yeah,
shoes are your feet are your most important asset when you're on tour. So um,
yeah.
and with Inspiring Vacations, it's like a midpoint range. You don't have porters taking your bag, whisking your bags for you. When you get out of the coach, you get your bag, you take it up to your room yourself, and you
Hmm.
bring it down yourself. So yeah, you need to pack and very well so you don't come like with 3 bags each.
Mm. Right. Otherwise, that's a big pain. That
Yeah.
is annoying. And then, did you do laundry in your hotel room? I mean, Nancy and I are famous for that, and we loved hair dryers in hotels because then you can dry your socks and all kinds of things.
Yeah, they do. It was surprising how many of our hotels had laundry facilities, or one hotel
Oh,
had a washer dryer combo right in our room. That was
ooh.
really cool.
Oh, that had to be also for people that may be families, but or people that are business travelers,
Yes, yes.
you know?
And the other fun thing is, in Japan, they give you pajamas. When you check in, you walk into your room and there's nicely folded pajamas that usually are monogrammed with the hotel on the bed. And they're like big night shirts. Um,
Oh, how cool.
and so you really don't have to take pajamas. That's one
Yeah.
thing you don't have to pack.
Well, you know what? I don't. I actually just take a t-shirt and shorts because I may need it for something else. And that's actually what I do because I've been in a hotel fire and ever since then I sleep as though I need to run out of the building. So, it's a thing. It's a thing. It's just a thing because last time I wasn't dressed that way and all I can say is, yep,
Yeah, that did not happen. And, you get around on trains. I was a little worried about the train system, how I would navigate it. It is amazingly how easy it is to navigate once you kind of get your bearings. And using the special card, you just go right through the turnstiles. You don't have to stop and buy a
Mhm.
ticket. And it's
Awesome.
big as Tokyo is, it is amazingly easy to get around.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad you had an awesome time. This is fun. Japan, it sounds really cultural too. Like you can really that they've preserved their history and want to
Yes,
share that, right? And
yes.
go through that. Wow. Wow. Would you
I
go
would
back?
I would, and I would say to anyone, if you have any worries about the food, about the language, uh, don't have worries. Go to Japan. And if you don't eat Japanese food or you don't think you do, 7-Elevens are everywhere, and you could eat the whole trip in a 7-Eleven and not miss a beat. They have the best egg salad sandwiches and prepared foods ready to go. So if you don't eat Japanese food, there, no worries. You're gonna be just
Wow.
fine.
That's good for everyone to know. Well, thank you so much. We can't wait for next episode, our next episode next month. Sharon has got a lot of travel coming up, so give everyone a little sneak preview of what's coming up for you now.
Well, I'm going soon to Pennsylvania. I have never been to Pennsylvania, and
It's beautiful.
I'm going to the Brandywine Valley area, and they have these
Beautiful.
wonderful gardens. It's like the America's garden capital. So,
Longwood is it
yeah.
is you're it's like Europe in a way. They have gardens and fountains, like all these different gardens set around fountains. And oh yes, we went during the pandemic actually. We stayed in a bed and breakfast that was from the 1700s, believe it or not.
Wow.
Amazing. And it is gorgeous, wonderful little villages, good food. Oh yeah, you're gonna love it. And a lot of Civil War history, really
And the
big history.
Revolutionary War, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
revolution. Thank you. Yeah, Revolutionary War history, tons of it. So you're going, and there's some Civil War history there too, but you are going to be, yeah, you're going to love it.
And wineries too, wineries.
How did I forget that?
Yes. So
Yeah, I think during
anyway,
COVID we weren't doing that, but yeah, well, we were drinking our wine. Let's be very clear. But then what happens?
um, you mean after, oh, and I'm also going to Alaska on an Alaska cruise. So
And
that's
Mexico?
and Mexico and San Francisco. So I've been home for a little while to write after Japan, and now I've got a spate of trips, just one right after the other.
Wow. Well, we're going to be, we're going to make sure we get a hold of you
Yeah,
so that we can have your next episode. Everyone, you can keep up with Sharon. Her episodes here on Big Blend Radio air with new ones every first Wednesday. And keep up with her at SharonKKurtz.com. Thanks so much, Sharon. It is always a joy to chat with you.
I love talking about Japan with you, and I implore everyone, if you have the slightest interest, go. You will not be sorry.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Wonder the World with Sharon podcast. You can keep up with Sharon's adventures at SharonKKurtz.com. Follow Big Blend Radio at BigBlendRadio.com. Happy travels!